From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. Tucker Carlson claims Gulf states arrested Israeli agents planning bombing. This and more on today's show, so stay tuned. President Donald Trump is facing mounting questions after offering a little public evidence to support claims that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States. The president formally notified Congress under the War Powers Resolution about Saturday's military strikes carried out on Iran. In a letter to interim Senate President Chuck Grassley, Trump said American forces conducted precision strikes on Iranian missile sites, air defenses, maritime mining capabilities, and command centers. He said diplomatic efforts had failed. Trump described Iran's actions as a growing threat to the United States and its allies. He said the strikes were meant to protect U.S. forces to secure shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and defend partners, including Israel. But observers say the administration has not presented clear evidence to back up those claims. Lawmakers who attended classified briefings say they were not shown specific intelligence pointing to an imminent attack. Independent analysts say no satellite imagery, intercepted communications, or detailed assessments have been made public. Nuclear expert and president of the Plowshares Fund, Emma Belcher, says the administration has put forth very little evidence, saying this is a huge problem. Belcher's San Francisco-based organization works to prevent the spread and use of nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. The United States has urged Americans to leave 15 countries and territories across the Middle East immediately. The State Department cited serious safety risks, advising citizens to use available commercial flights and transport while they remain operational. The locations include Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israeli-occupied West Bank and Gaza, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Syria, as well as the United Arab Emirates and Yemen. Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs, Maura Namdar, posted on X, telling Americans to depart now. The advisory comes as fighting intensifies between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. Several Gulf states have temporarily closed their airspace. In Iran, at least 787 people have been killed by U.S. and Israeli strikes across the country, including at least 180 children. U.S. Central Command says 6 American service members have been killed in the first 3 days of joint operations. American commentator Tucker Carlson claims that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have arrested Israeli intelligence agents who were allegedly planning bombings inside their territories. Speaking on his show, Carlson blamed Israel for targeting Gulf countries. He alleged that Israel seeks to hurt not only Iran, but also Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, and Kuwait. His remarks come as U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran escalate regional tensions. Iran says it has targeted more than 500 American and Israeli sites using drones and missiles. A drone attack caused a limited fire at oil giant Saudi Aramco's Ras Tanura refinery. Energy markets reacted sharply with gas prices surging. Shipping insurers have pulled war risk coverage in the Gulf. In the meantime, Iran has denied carrying out attacks on Oman, according to state media. Oman had reported multiple drone incidents, saying a fuel tank at Duqm port was hit and a drone crashed near Salalah airport. 2 others were intercepted at Dhofar. It says an expatriate worker was wounded in a separate strike. Spain says the United States has not used and will not use Spanish military bases to strike Iran. Foreign Minister José Manuel Alvarez says the bases at Rota and Morón de la Frontera are not being used for operations linked to the U.S. and Israeli military attacks on Iran. Alvarez stressed that Spain maintains full sovereignty over its facilities and that the bases will not be used for any action outside bilateral agreements or the United Nations Charter. He adds that Madrid was not informed in advance about recent U.S. strikes on Iran, which he describes as unilateral and outside any collective framework. Earlier, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez criticized what he called unilateral action by the U.S. and Israel. He warned that it risks creating a more uncertain and hostile international order. Alvarez said the escalation could disrupt shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and push oil prices higher. Spain has also condemned Iran's retaliatory attacks on Gulf countries and is calling for urgent de-escalation and diplomacy. Muslim civil rights groups in New Jersey have stepped in to support detainees observing Ramadan at an immigration facility in Newark. The New Jersey chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, the Islamic Circle of North America, the Council for Social Justice, and Justice for All have donated hundreds of religious items. They will be distributed to Muslims held by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, at Delaney Hall. The donations include copies of the Quran in Arabic and with translation, prayer mats, beads, hijabs, kufis, Islamic books, and dates to break the fast with. Former detainees reported difficulty practicing their faith inside the facility. CAIR New Jersey says every detainee, regardless of immigration status, has a right to worship with dignity. Partner groups have called for full religious accommodation, including timely meals for fasting and access to prayer. For the first time, the facility is allowing weekly Friday prayers and coordinating pre-dawn and sunset meals during Ramadan. Organizers say they will continue pressing for Eid prayers and broader religious rights. A Muslim parent has filed a federal lawsuit against Texas officials. Mehdi Sherkawi of Houston says Islamic private schools are being unfairly blocked from the state's new voucher program. He says the policy amounts to religious discrimination. The suit names Attorney General Ken Paxton, Acting Controller Kelly Hancock, and Education Commissioner Mike Morath. Governor Greg Abbott signed Senate Bill 2 in 2025. The law allows families to use public funds for private or homeschool education. More than 143,000 students have applied, and over 2,100 private schools have been accepted. However, no Islamic schools are known to have been approved. Hancock sought guidance on whether schools with alleged ties to designated groups could be excluded. Experts say hundreds of schools, including Muslim institutions, were shut out. Sherkawi pays nearly $18,000 a year in tuition and says he wants access to about $10,500 per child in voucher funds. The lawsuit asks the court to halt what it calls discriminatory practices before the March 17th deadline. Israel shuts Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan amid war with Iran. Details after the break, so stay tuned. A Foreign Service officer has been identified as the suspect in a deadly highway stabbing in Virginia. The State Department has confirmed that the suspect was involved in Sunday's attack in Fairfax County. Officials expressed condolences but declined further comment, citing an ongoing investigation. Virginia State Police said 32-year-old Jared Lamado of McLean allegedly stabbed 4 women after what began as a property damage crash. 39-year-old Michelle Adams died from her injuries. 3 other women were wounded. A dog was also killed. Police say the incident is not believed to be terrorism-related. A state trooper responding to the scene was confronted by the suspect, who was armed with a knife. The trooper shot him in self-defense. Lamado later died in a hospital. The trooper was not injured. Israel has stopped all humanitarian aid into Gaza. The United Nations says every crossing into the territory has been closed, including Rafah. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says Israeli authorities have suspended aid movements in and around areas where troops remain deployed. Planned rotations of humanitarian staff have also been postponed. Medical evacuations are now on hold. The return of displaced people into Gaza has also been suspended. The UN warns that people in Gaza depend on a steady flow of food, fuel, and medical supplies. Storage facilities are limited as much of the territory lies in ruins due to Israel's ongoing genocide in the region. Dujarric says a sustained and predictable supply of aid cannot continue under a full blockade. He has urged that all crossings be reopened immediately. In the occupied West Bank, most checkpoints remain shut, restricting movement between Palestinian cities. The developments come after joint U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran began on Saturday, followed by retaliatory missile and drone attacks. Israel has declared a nationwide state of emergency. Israel has closed Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem for a 3rd straight day. Palestinian Muslims have been barred from performing Ramadan prayers at the site. Israeli authorities say the move comes under a state of emergency following the outbreak of its war with Iran. The mosque will remain closed until further notice, with only limited essential activity allowed. Sheikh Ikrimah Sabri, the former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and one of Al-Aqsa's senior imams, condemned the decision as unjustified. He says it places the mosque under full police control under the pretext of security. Officials from the Islamic Waqf say the situation is dire. Israel has reportedly banned approximately 1,000 Jerusalem residents, including senior imams and dozens of Waqf employees. The closure during Ramadan is rare. Al-Aqsa, one of Islam's holiest sites, has not faced such prolonged restrictions since Israel occupied East Jerusalem in 1967. Israel has also closed the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, suspending prayers there until further notice. The family of U.S. Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese has filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump. The suit challenges sanctions imposed on her by his administration. Her husband, Massimiliano Cali, and their minor daughter are plaintiffs in a federal court case in Washington. They have also named Attorney General Pamela Bondi, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio as defendants. The lawsuit argues the sanctions violate constitutional protections, including free speech, due process, and protection against unreasonable seizure. The family says their daughter, born in the United States, is a citizen and part of the national community. Albanese was sanctioned last year over what the administration described as political and economic warfare against the U.S. and Israel. It has accused her of biased and malicious activities against the U.S. and its ally, Israel. Albanese is a legal scholar who has served as the Special Rapporteur for the West Bank and Gaza since 2022. She monitors human rights abuses against Palestinians. The UN Human Rights Council selected her for the position. Albanese says the measures have severely disrupted her work and daily life. The State Department has dismissed the lawsuit as baseless, while several European governments have also raised concerns about her conduct in recent months. Deadly fighting is escalating along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. At least 3 children were killed in eastern Afghanistan's Kunar province. Afghan broadcaster Tolo News says shells struck a refugee camp in Khas Kunar district. 2 more children were injured. Pakistan denies targeting civilians. State media says its forces destroyed an ammunition depot in Afghanistan's Khost province. Pakistan has called the action self-defense. Pakistan's information minister claims 435 Afghan Taliban fighters have been killed since Thursday. He says more than 630 were wounded. Kabul says 56 Pakistani soldiers have died in the clashes. Analysts say those claims cannot be independently verified. The total reported death toll has reached 84, including soldiers and civilians on both sides. Pakistan has shut dozens of schools near the border. China says it is engaging both countries to help ease tensions. French President Emmanuel Macron has unveiled a major shift in France's nuclear doctrine. He says France is ready to temporarily deploy elements of its nuclear deterrent to allied European countries. The move is part of what he calls a forward deterrence. Macron announced the plan at the Île-Longue naval base in Brittany, home to France's nuclear submarines. He says strategic assets, including Rafale fighter jets, could be sent to allied territory for exercises or crisis response. France has held in-depth talks with Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Greece, and Sweden. Joint committees will begin work this year. Germany has confirmed it will join French nuclear exercises. Macron says the shift is driven by Russia's war in Ukraine and growing doubts in Europe about long-term U.S. security guarantees after President Donald Trump's return to the White House. He stresses that the plan complements NATO and keeps full French control over nuclear decisions. A Paris court has postponed the trial of Swiss Muslim academic and writer Tariq Ramadan. The former Oxford professor did not appear in court on Monday. His lawyers say he is hospitalized in Geneva due to multiple sclerosis. The presiding judge adjourned proceedings until Wednesday. A medical report on his condition has been ordered. Ramadan is accused of raping 3 women in France between 2009 and 2016. He denies the charges. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison. One accuser, Henda Ayari, says he allegedly raped her in a Paris hotel in 2012. Another woman, known as Christelle, alleges she was assaulted in Lyon in 2009. A third complaint relates to 2016. Ramadan initially denied any sexual contact. He later acknowledged relations with 2 women, but said they were consensual. In 2024, a Swiss court convicted him of rape in a separate Geneva case. That ruling was upheld on appeal. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. Please donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.